Hey guys, welcome back. We are doing lesson 3, animals of the Sonoran Desert Habitat. And so today we're going to learn about a new habitat out in a desert. We're going to learn new words for vocabulary, and we are going to discuss how the desert habitat is similar to the Arctic habitat. So let's get started. Let's talk some vocabulary words. Let's talk scavengers. Scavengers are animals that eat meat and waste left by other animals. Example, those rats are quite the scavengers. They ate all the leftovers in the alley. A scavenger. Omnivore. An omnivore is an animal that eats both plants and other animals. Example, a grizzly bear is an omnivore that eats fish as well as berries. Omnivore. Herbivore. Herbivore is an animal that eats only plants or plant products. My pet rabbits are herbivores and eat only plants. A herbivore. Carnivore is an animal that consumes other animals. Example, a polar bear is a carnivore that eats seals and fish. Nocturnal. Nocturnal means they're active at night. Example, bats are nocturnal animals that come out at night to hunt. Nocturnal. And our last word is camouflage, is to blend in or hide in a natural surrounding. Example, the green color of leaf insects helps to camouflage them or hide them in a forest. Camouflage. So you will see those words throughout our lesson today. So how would we describe habitat? We've been discussing about habitats. So what is a habitat? Correct. It is a place where you have food, water, and shelter for animals and plants. Good. Now, think about the weather and temperature of the Arctic tundra and the Arctic Ocean. What was it like? It was really, really cold, wasn't it? And snowy. And so where we're going is a little bit warmer now. All right, but before I get there, we need to think about the animals and the plants that live in these areas. They have to learn to adapt to these areas. Like the animals that live in the Arctic, they've had to grow thicker fur and they've had to obtain a layer of blubber, and they've got thicker pads with fur all over them so their feet don't chill out, and their ears are not big. They're close to their heads because cooler in a desert area, whereas in an Arctic area, they want to stay warmer. So Rattenborough mentioned the last read aloud that he would be taking us to a warmer place. Today we're going to be learning about a habitat called a desert and some of the animals that live in this habitat. And there are deserts everywhere all over the world. So I'm going to share my screen because I want you to see what I am looking at. Okay. It's going to take just a second, friends. Trying to open up all these different programs here. Hold on 1 second, friends. I'm sorry. Okay, so there we go. Animals of the Sonoran Desert habitat. Isn't that a beautiful shot? All right, this is what I want you guys to look at. Look at this picture of a desert. What do you see in this illustration? How does it look different from the pictures you've seen of the Arctic? Think about that. Well, this is like a big sandbox. There's nothing there except sand and a few plants there. And in the Arctic, it was all snow and ice. So they're very similar in that kind of aspects, aren't they? There's nothing at either place. One's covered in sand and one's covered in ice. The temperature in the desert is almost exactly opposite that found in the Arctic. The Arctic's very cold, whereas the desert is very hot. The Arctic is muddy in the summer, whereas the desert is dry and sandy. Now, if you think the same animals that live in the Arctic live in the desert, you're wrong, because they can't live in the same place. Animals are in the perfect spot for themselves. Polar bears cannot live in a desert. Polar bears can only live in the Arctic, whereas a coyote can live in a desert but cannot live in the Arctic. All right, this is our world map, and the deserts are located in many different regions of the world, but today we're going to hear about a particular desert that is located in the northwestern part of Mexico and the southwestern part of the United States, in parts of the states of Arizona and California. And it is right here in the yellow. This is the Sonoran Desert area, the Sonoran Desert area. So what we're going to do today is we're going to listen to find out more about this Sonoran Desert and how animals have adapted to living there. Oh, after nearly freezing and almost becoming a polar bear snack in the Arctic, I thought we should go someplace where my whiskers and tail could thaw out and warm up. So I've brought you to the desert. There are many deserts all over the world. You know you're in a desert when it doesn't rain very much. Many deserts can also be very hot. Because it's so hot and dry, only certain types of plants and animals can live there. Sorry, friends. Welcome to the Sonoran Desert in the southwest part of the United States and the northwestern part of Mexico. The temperature is quite hot during the day and it doesn't rain very much. The heat and lack of rain makes it hard for some plants and animals to live in a desert. They must all be specially adapted to live in hot weather and survive with very little rain. How do they do it? Some plants can say living underground helps them stay cool when it gets hot, and it keeps them hidden from other animals that may want them for lunch. Ouch! What did I walk into? Aha! Here is one plant that lives in the Sonoran Desert. The Sagora cactus is the world's largest cactus. Cacti don't have leaves, they have prickly spines instead, which is exactly why it hurts so much to touch this one. Now the word cacti is the plural for cactus. One cactus, but many cacti. The incredible saguaro lives up to 200 years. And in that time, it can grow as high as a house and can weigh as much as several cars. The most amazing thing about the saguaro is that it is a habitat in itself. That's right. Not only does it manage to live and thrive in this desert habitat, but just by being there, it provides food, water, and shelter to many different animals. Let me get my climbing gear out and some gloves to protect me from these sharp spines, and I'll meet you at the top. You already know that it hardly ever rains in the desert, but when it does, the saguaro cactus saves and stores huge quantities of water in its roots and stems. Now the stem is the lower part of the cactus here, okay? The cactus saves the extra water and uses it to survive during those times when it is very dry and does not rain. In the spring, white flowers grow in the saguaro, and at night when the desert cools down, these flowers open to show sweet nectar, which butterflies, bats, and birds feed on before the flower closes the next day, when it once again becomes very hot. In the summer, red fruit begins to grow on the saguaro. Many animals eat the fruit of the cactus. Here's an interesting bird called a Gia woodpecker. The Gia pecks holes into the soft cactus with its beak to make a nest for its eggs. The Gia woodpecker is an omnivore. An omnivore is an animal that eats plants as well as other animals. Gias feed on cactus fruit and berries as well as insects that have invaded the saguaro. Thankfully, I brought a sandwich so I won't have to join these Gias for a buggy lunch. It really is way too hot for a regular rat like me to live here. I'm glad I brought my fan with me. Now here the word fan means an object that's used to move air to make people or things cooler. The word fan can also mean a person who likes or admires someone or something, such as a sports team, in an enthusiastic way. Interestingly enough, birds like this Gia woodpecker can live in the desert habitat because their feathers help protect them from the hot desert sun by trapping cool air next to their skin. Still, most birds go out to feed in the early morning or evening when it's cooler outside. From noon to late afternoon, many of these birds seek shelter in the holes that they have dug in a cactus or in other shady places. Good. The elf owl, like most owls, is nocturnal, which means that it rests during the day and wakes up at night to hunt for food. The elf owl is also a carnivore, and a carnivore is an animal that eats only other animals, no plants. It uses its large eyes to hunt in the dark for bugs that live in the desert. Most owls eat mice, and I'm sad to say, rats. But I think I'm safe from this elf owl because I'm bigger than it is. Oh, look, here comes a desert. White fur to be camouflaged in the snow, and larger, wider back feet for traction to get away. Desert cottontail rabbits are herbivores. Herbivores are animals that eat only plants, no animals. The desert cottontail eats grass and even cacti. Smaller animals like the desert cottontail always need to watch out for larger animals in the desert that might eat them. Many animals and plants are part of a cycle called a food chain. But you know what? We'll learn more about the food chain in the next read aloud. Coyotes, for instance, like to eat rabbits. In fact, there's a coyote coming this way. So let's stay up here and watch it. Coyotes are found all over the United States, including the Sonoran Desert. As you can see, the coyote has a light tan colored coat to help reflect the sun's rays and to camouflage it. Remember, to camouflage something means to make it blend in with its surrounding. The color of the coyote's fur blends in with the color of the desert sand so that it's difficult for other animals to see the coyotes in the desert background. Coyotes are carnivores like the elf owls. Coyotes have very good senses of smell, hearing, and vision, and they can run very fast, which means they are excellent hunters. They are also scavengers. Remember, scavengers are animals that eat meat and waste left by other animals. Coyotes live in dens, which they make by burrowing into the ground. I think this one has smelled something because he's just run off. Well, now I'm getting down from this cactus before another coyote comes along to make me its dinner. It seems like rats are on the menu everywhere I go. So I'm going to share again. Okay, so let's talk a few minutes about this lesson. Describe the weather and the temperature of the desert. We know it's dry and it's hot, and there's not a lot of rain there, is there? No. Do many plants and animals live in the desert? No. Why not? Probably because it's hot and very dry. There's not a lot of water there, is there? No. If you were given someone directions on how to prepare to spend time in the desert, what would you tell him or her to take for supplies? Now, I've been to a desert and I know what I need to take for supplies, but what would you take? Would you take a backpack to carry all your supplies in? Would you take water, food, some sunscreen, definitely if you're in the desert, because that sun's going to be very warm and it's going to be very hot out there. Sunglasses are definite, and hats are definite. Great job. How are the Arctic and the Sonoran Desert different? Wow, that's a big one, isn't it? Temperature for sure, because one's extremely cold and one's extremely warm. The animals are different too, aren't they? Because you're not going to find a polar bear in a desert, and you're not going to find a cottontail rabbit in the Arctic. You're not going to find seals and walruses in a desert. You're not going to find an elf owl in the Arctic. And then you got to think about the Arctic is covered in snow and ice, where the desert is sandy. Good. And the plants, there's not many plants there either. They're very few and far and in between, because one of the plants that we talked about in the desert was a cactus, and that definitely is not found in the Arctic. In the Arctic, you may find a few mosses on the ground, but that's it. So how do animals find shelter in the desert? Well, we heard that they burrow under the ground in the sand, and we also know they use cactus to live in, don't they? Yes. How has the saguaro cactus adapted to live in the desert? So when it rains, what does that cactus do? It stores a lot of water. Yes, it stores a lot of water that it can use during the dry season. Good. How about the animals in the desert? How have they adapted living there? They come out at night, don't they? When it's cooler, they come out early in the morning before it gets too hot, or in the evening when it's cooled down, but they don't come out during the day because it's too hot for them. They stay away from the sun, and then they come out and hunt at night. Which animal that you heard is nocturnal? I think it would be the elf owl because it comes out at night to hunt, sleeps during the day, and comes out at night. Well, great job, guys. You all did wonderful with this lesson, and I can't wait to see where we go on our next adventure. So explorers, until next time.